Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Soul to Soul Connections with Jeni Ji. I'm Jeni Ji Cousins, host and producer. Now, in order to tune into my show, you're going to have to subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channel to catch all shows, videos, and content. I'm on 16 different platforms, so you're going to catch it one way or the other. Now, the links will be below in the description box. And before I introduce today's guest, if you feel that you have an inspiring story you would like to share or something you would really, really like to address and talk about, let me know. Send me a message, because you never know. I just might reach out to you and say, you know what, let's do an interview and have that chat. So listen up, everyone. Now, on today's show, I find this person, my guest, very different, very unique. I love the work that he does. And you're all going to understand and see why. So before I introduce him, I'm going to read a little bit of his bio, and then we're going to start the conversation out. And if you want Ron to come back at the end at another time to go live, so you, the viewers, can ask him questions, also let me know. So now I want to introduce on today's show Ron Morehead. Now, he's extraordinary with the work he does. Now, Ron has been known for decades for his worldwide research into the Bigfoot Sasquatch phenomenon. He is an author, researcher, lecturer, experiencer, and producer of the renowned Sierra Sounds. To date, he comes closer than any other researcher to have a complete body of evidence. The Sierra Sounds are the only Bigfoot recordings that have been scientifically studied, time-tested, and accredited as genuine. Ron has documented his personal interactions with these giant beings and produced his story on a CD and also in a book, Voices of in the Wilderness. In order to try and understand the enigmas associated with these giants, he began to delve into quantum physics for the scientific answers that his hunting friends experienced. And as a result, he wrote another thought-provoking book, The Quantum Bigfoot. Now, still resolved to dig deeper for answers, Ron has produced another book, Bigfoot Unveiled. Now, Ron resides with his partner, Carrie, in North Carolina, but has traveled to and from Alaska to Patagonia and from North America to Siberia in search of the truth to how these beings are able to stay so close and hidden from classical science's radar. Besides being a keynote speaker at many conventions, he has been featured on countless radio programs, TV documentaries, such as the Learning Channel and Travel Channel. Now, Ron has been around. And thank you, Ron, for taking the time to chat with me today. I'm so very honored and so grateful for our opportunity.
I thank you, Jeni, for asking me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. I was very excited to share your work and your books and all of everything. So now, what originally drew you into your work pursuing Bigfoot and Sasquatch?
Well, I was friends with a group of guys who hunted in the Sierra Mountains of California, and I wasn't a hunter at the time, but a couple of them came out with a story of these things, whatever they were, making these huge noises around the camp. Now, the camp is 8 miles into the wilderness from the closest road, and 8,400 feet in elevation, so it's pretty imposing, too, to get to. But one of the guys who didn't believe what they were saying, even though the Johnson brothers had been hunting up there since 1958, and they weren't someone to just discount, and these guys all knew each other, and like I said, I was friends with all of them, so The one guy went back up. They all went back up there again to see if these things were still around, because the horrific sounds they were hearing was not a bear, and they knew that. And the track they saw was not a bear's track. And so anyway, this guy heard it, and he very religious. He didn't know where to put it in his paradigm, because giants aren't supposed to exist like these things represented. And he got freaked out, got scared, left the next morning, left him a note, said, "I'm out of here," and hiked all the way out and went all the way back to home in the valley, San Joaquin Valley of California. And the Wise were worried, because at the time when the Johnson brothers came out and told the story about these things that were up there, they didn't know what they were dealing with, and they didn't know where they were, because the sounds that they were hearing were very, very aggressive, and they didn't know if it was going to get eaten or what. But they got out and everything was good. They told the other guys they went back up, or like I said, one guy came out, so he wouldn't go back and check on him because he was afraid to go by himself. So they said, "Well, you got to go see if they've been eaten or what's happened to these guys," because again, they didn't know what they's dealing with up there. So he said, "I'll go if Ron will go with me." So I went with him, and I thought I was in good shape. But that trail is really imposing when you leave ground level altitude and go to 10,000 feet. It's kind of taxing on your lungs a little bit, and I thought I was in good shape, but he wore me out. We got there, the guys were okay, but that got me introduced into the camp, and I've been going back. I went back as often as I could to find someone to go with me, and that's how I got involved. We all started taking tape recorders, cassette tape recorders, and started recording these sounds. It wasn't until 71, 72 when Alan Berry was contacted by Ivan Sanderson, cryptozoologist, who thought it was probably a hoax, because Warren Johnson, the leader, he wrote him a 23-page letter. And that went into, he forwarded it to Peter Byrne, who was on the West Coast with the Bigfoot Research Center. Now, Peter thought the same thing, it's probably a hoax. But he thought, well, I'll send it to my friend Al Berry, who's in California. He's an investigative reporter, and he's no one to fool with. Al Berry has a master's degree in science. So anyway, Al came down and interviewed us and got the story and asked if he could go in. So he went in 1972. Looking for the hoax, actually. And I didn't know all this till I read the correspondence later in years, when I read Al Berry's files. And Al Berry passed away in 2012. So a couple of the other guys passed away too. So there's only three of us left that were in the original group. And that's what got me started. And Al Berry, to being the professional that he was, he started searching for a PhD in electronic engineers to establish the sounds were real or not real. Either way, he just wanted to know the background of them. And he got a hold of Professor Lynn Curlin at the University of Wyoming, who was a electrical engineer, PhD, and he did a year-long study. He took them seriously, as did Ivy Tybo, people who did the Watergate tapes, but they don't do it for free. Or this guy was professor at a university, so he took it on and actually assigned it to a student and checked it. He gave that in a paper. He established that the tapes were not manipulated, that the sounds we were hearing were not speeded up, sounds were not slowed down, there was no 60-second hum, all that stuff. He said there's no, it represented, one little piece of it represented an animal 8 foot tall, over 8 foot tall. So then a cryptolinguist got a hold of him by accident. By the way, he presented that paper that he wrote in the University of British Columbia in 1978, I think it was. And it was just academia mostly there. And they still didn't know what to do with that, because academia has their paradigms, it's got to fit within that, and they're going to try to make it fit. So they all thought it had to be, if these things do exist, they got to be a remnant of the Gigantopithecus, which came across the land bridge, and they think, and survived, it didn't go extinct like everybody thought, all that stuff, So if it don't fit into their paradigm, it's probably got to be questionable. But even though this Dr. Curlin is a professor, they should have been taken more seriously. So that's all in a book called Man Like Monsters on Trial. It was published by UCB Press in 1980. It wasn't until 2008 when a cryptolinguist trained by the Navy, two-time graduate of the Foreign Language Institute of Languages, and he got hold of them by accident. He thought, I hear language in this. Now, he was trained by the military to hear codes and hear languages that he didn't know, and see if they were a code or a language. If it was a language, to transcribe it and not translate it, because until you get somebody to tell you what a word is, you don't really know where to start. But he transcribed it, and he said it's a language by the human definition of language, a very complex language. Knowing that it hadn't been manipulated now, and he said humans can't make this. And actually, that was established in Dr. Curlin's report too. Humans can't make the frequencies that these things can get to, below, above, and inside our average human range. So anyway, that was a pretty big step too, since how he's cryptolinguist trained by the Navy and two-time graduate, and had him vetted quite well. So he's, so what really puts the cap on this thing is Dr. Philip Lieberman at Brown University, who passed away earlier this year. He says only primates, only human primate, only us humans have the capability of language like I'm talking now. All other animals have a way of communicating, but they don't have a language as I'm talking now. We have that. Only humans have that, he said. So to me, that puts a human component within these beings that we dealt with in the Sierras. So that's how I got started. That's where I kind of went babbling off there, but
no, it's fine. It's fine. So how many years have you been doing research and such?
I'm sorry. Yeah, this started for me in 1971.
Okay,
And I've been
wow.
researching ever since. And I was brought up in religious circles. So the first thing I turned to was biblical references to giants, and I kind of know quite a bit about the giants, but it really didn't say how they could be here today. I didn't think. So I started digging deeper into Greek mythology and how our Bible got to where it is. And it went all the way back to the cuneiform text now, which is the oldest known written language for the Sumerians in northern Mesopotamia. And you find a lot more in how it's all been manipulated by the powers to be throughout the ages,
Yeah.
So it's really interesting when you get into it, but it also gets into what Tesla said. What one man calls God, another one calls quantum physics. So, and then Einstein said what takes, see, science without religion is lame. Religion without science is blind. And that's what he says.
Yeah.
Now, I think if he could say that today, he'd probably say spirituality, because religions are conditioned. Each one of them to believe certain ways. For spirituality, we're all spiritual beings, whether we want to believe that or not, we are. And we're all going to, we have an etherical body and a biological body. The biological body will die, but our ethereal body, our spirit, our soul, our cognizance, they won't die. They're going to go somewhere else. So we're beings, I think, with multiple embodiments. And we have to learn what we're supposed to do on this planet. It's a training ground for us. Yes. Learning what to do and experiencing what we're experiencing is a huge privilege, because we're made very special, and a lot of eyes are on this planet, because we're supposed to be, well, I get really deep into this stuff, maybe too soon. So back me off and ask me another question if you want to. But it gets into quantum physics, and that kind of explains the anomalies associated with these beings, in my opinion. How so many reports over the years I've heard of them disappearing, and I've heard of them different things happening. Same thing that happened with us up there. A lot of different screwy things. You can't put your finger on. Outside Newtonian physics, we're all trained in the 5th grade on from Newtonian physics, which is 1687. And we got to live in that in our 3-dimensional environment, but it's based on everything being measurable, predictable, and material and physical. But everything isn't that way. You find that our light's frequency is everything is energy, frequency, and vibration, according to Tesla. So you get into that, you find that we are energy at the most basic level of our being. We're energy vibrating at a frequency. Even Einstein, if you could change that frequency, find the frequency of anything, you can change its matter. That was established firmly by Dr. Dirac, 1933, when he won the Nobel Prize for matter and energy are interchangeable. That's pretty interesting. Matter and energy are interchangeable. And that was established by CERN, the Hadron Collider, in 2012, when a particle changes into energy through that collider, and they can't see energy, but they can sense it. So they saw the particle and they sensed the energy at the end of the tunnel. And that was unique, more so than most people even realize. So matter and energy are interchangeable. So that kind of answers the question, how can they disappear? Well, their vocal range is so superior to ours, according to the science we've had done on them. I think they can reach a frequency that they can change their matter into energy.
Yeah,
And you
because
hear
they
all
could
these
probably
stories.
sense that. Yeah, they could probably sense that no matter wherever they are in their location, they could feel or smell or sense there's an energy like a human or somebody around them.
I think it's their own energy they're changing.
Yeah,
Unless they can change our perception of what we're seeing, which
yeah,
I don't know, maybe that's
yeah.
possible too.
Like if
But
you
we did,
came face to face with a Bigfoot, let's say, or Sasquatch, would you be nervous? Would you be scared? Because I'm, you've done endless research.
you cut
Like,
out on me. Uh,
yeah,
well, I've never come face to face with one, so I
yeah.
can't say, but
Have you felt it? Like sense that you're being watched, like in the
oh,
woods or somewhere?
definitely, yes. Yes, a lot of people feel that. But then science will say, well, you can't go by your feelings. And
Yeah,
one time, Warren Johnson and I were in our shelter, and we came out of the shelter when this thing was yapping around this big tree right outside there. And we thought, what's a moonlit night? We jump out right quick, we'll see it run away. Because we was getting pretty bold at that time because we realized whatever the sounds were, they weren't going to eat us or carry us away or something. So we started walking up towards this tree thinking we're going to see it run away. And all of a sudden we just got frozen our tracks, both of us. And I mentioned that to a scientist one time because we couldn't go any further. Warren looked at me and said, I don't know if you, I can't move. And I said, I can't either. And I said, go backwards. So we both walked back in the shelter. As soon as I got back in the shelter, this thing started mouthing off again, like it was toying with us or something. I told that to a scientist one day. He said, well, science can't go by your fears. This can't. I said, trust me, we weren't afraid at that time. We just wanted to see one. You know? And he
yeah,
said, well, maybe it's infrasound or ultrasound or pheromones. I mean, infrasound or pheromones is what he said. Pheromones only work within the same species. So I thought it's probably infrasound because that does affect, that's a known thing that animals use, large animals use that. Elephants, giraffes, tigers. They use that to frighten prey because it affects humans, definitely. So I kind of went with infrasound at the time.
yeah,
So that's just one
yeah,
freaky thing that's happened up there. And also we hear sounds out there that wasn't outside our shelter, that wasn't normal. It wasn't just the vocalizations we were recording, but it was metallic sounds. Or one time we thought our shelter was being tore apart, and I mean, not our shelter, but our barrels that we had our food in was being tore apart. And we looked out there later and nothing had changed. Well, what do you do with that? At the time
yeah,
we were there in the early 70s when all this was going on, we really didn't know what we were dealing with. And we were ignorant about how things really work on this planet. It's not just Newtonian physics. It's quantum physics, which was only established, and Max Planck got the Nobel Prize in 1918 for quantum mechanics. And that's what Einstein, Tesla, a lot of these guys were working with, Bohr and Schrodinger and those physicists. And a lot of people just don't think they can get their head around what they were doing, but it's really not that hard. I started
yeah.
delving into it years and years ago, and just try to get the answers to the things we were witnessing up there, the lights and the anomalies and things. So anyway, that's what I got to say about that. That's
Yeah,
how I got
because
involved.
whenever I was listening to one of your sounds, like I can't remember, I think it was like the new documentary coming out. I caught it and I was just sitting back and I was listening to it. My dog was sleeping. She woke up right away and just started looking around and barking. Like, I mean, that's, an animal can look at sounds, but I noticed a really big difference with her whenever she kind of looked up and how she was reacting. It's almost like, what is that? Right? Yeah, I
Well, a
know.
lot
I'm
of
like,
dogs will just cower back under you, and not want to leave.
yeah, like she was across the other side of the room from me, sleeping and such. And,
Mhm.
and it was, I'm just like, wow, that's so interesting. So interesting. And then I played it again later, just, curiosity. And yeah, it was like that. She was like, what is that? It was very different. I could, because I'm also an animal communicator. So when she was, how she was reacting, and it was very interesting, like just a frequency and the vibration from that alone.
Right.
So, whenever you started like to hear these sounds, like, did your hair stand up? Did you like kind of like that feeling and that sensing and knowing that, wait a minute, like this is,
I didn't, because I knew the other guys hadn't been eaten and they hadn't been carried away. They were all safe. And I don't know if it's because, excuse me, we all had high-powered guns. It's a hunting camp.
yeah,
And
yeah,
so I don't know if it was the guns that made it, but I don't think our guns might have done any good. I mean, to be honest with you, if they'd torn the shelter, we would definitely all been deaf by now, shooting at them, or not been here at all.
yeah,
Because they certainly could have tore through that wood shelter that we had. And but I kind of had a sense of who I am as a human at that time, even, and who we all are. I just felt very uh, not vulnerable myself. That wasn't how some of the other guys felt. I know that, but I don't mean to sound like I was some kind of a hero or something, but I
yeah,
just didn't have that come over me, and I got kind of bold with it. And anyway, I kind of get into who I think we are as humans and how special we are, and how we should be thankful that we are who we are, and then take all our issues not as a victim, but as a challenge and as a way to respond to them properly.
yeah, yeah. Because you, back in 1971, you had a personal experience with like a Bigfoot family in California. What happened back then?
But that was in '74 when I was up
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
You know, they started interacting with me and my friend Bill when we first got up there, and just he and I. We packing supplies into the horses and mules, and he was just doing what he was doing, taking care of the horses, and I was trying to get a fire going for something to eat. It was getting late, and that's when they started popping their rocks. And that's the night I got to see one. He got to see one also.
Hmm.
They started interacting with us over outside the shelter, which was pretty unique, really very unique. Normally they'd wait till we got inside before they'd do anything. And anyway, we found out if you just act like they're not there, they'll come closer. But they started popping their rocks rhythmically, uh, hitting trees, doing what they do. And the first thing you know, they start whooping back and forth. Whoops, I think, have different intonations, meaning different things. I don't know what. I don't know the code there, but they got one of their own. Then they started chattering, and they've done that before, but this was outside, while we were there. And one of them was cried out behind me, and it was the samurai cry, how I got coined later on. And the samurai cry, I saw this thing run down the ridge towards the other two. We think there's two more down there, an adolescent and a female. And I think he was the big male, had a big voice. But I recorded a little voice too, and a big voice coming down on it, like the mother coming down on a child for getting too fresh with these pinheaded humans.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I'm sure that whenever they're sensing, especially humans around, they just walk the opposite direction, you know?
they evade us. They don't want to. They're not supposed to interfere with our karma, and they
Yeah.
were interfering with us up there. Everything has free will, and that people want to know why they don't interfere with more. The way they interfere with a lot of people is through what they call mind speak, and that's called quantum entanglement when the minds are together. And you know what I mean by that. And people ask me if I've had mind speak up there with. I've always been very analytical, and I
Yeah.
think that my analytical mind talks me out of listening to stuff like that. I used to anyway. Getting better. I think you get better through meditation and trying to clean up your pineal gland so that you can receive from the universe, and you can do a lot of things that we just haven't learned how to evolve into yet.
Hmm. So what is some of their habits? Like do you know what some of their habits are that they do?
No, no, we can't. We never found out where they went.
Yeah.
We scoured the
Yeah.
mountains all over up there looking for where they could be.
Yeah.
Where they go in the daytime, because they only came by in the evening mostly. And we go
Yeah.
out walking, without our horses, just to scout around or to hunt. And of course, I stopped hunting. I don't hunt anymore, but during those days I did, because that's what you did when you were up there. And then we come back and find big footprints around our horses. So I know
Oh, wow.
they do come up in the daytime, but horses didn't seem to be bothered by them. Even when
Oh,
they were
really?
around our camp, they didn't
They
rustle around
didn't, yeah, show no
like,
signs or anything, or
well, no, even when a bear's around now, they will tromp and stomp and
yeah, because there's that threat, right? So
yes,
they're probably sensing,
there's no
that
threat.
energy around them and saying, you know what, everything's going to be okay, everything's calm. So, but a
Mhm.
bear, I understand. Have you ever come
Yeah.
face to face with a bear, like pretty, like close
Oh,
up?
yes, I have.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that would freak me out completely more
Well,
than a Sasquatch. I can
there's
tell you
a lot
that.
of bear up there, a lot of bear
Yeah.
up there. And I was sitting one time on a rock, just sitting there, nice warm day, on a rock, and I seen this sow and two cubs come strolling towards me. I had to be downwind from them. And the two cubs kind of drifted off. One of them drifted off and got really close to me. And I
Oh,
thought, if this thing gets behind me, I could be in trouble with that sow. I shook him back.
yeah,
And so I kind of wiggled a little bit, and he didn't see me. They can't see with the clip, but they could smell you.
yeah.
All of a sudden, he got a whiff of me, and he stood up and he just ran back to his mom, and they all three ran off.
Oh,
And several times I've come pretty close to bear up there, and it's interesting. But bear, usually the black bears aren't aggressive as a rule, but actually one came into our camp one night when we was up there, and about 12 o'clock we got woken up by what we thought was Bigfoot sounds outside up on a ridge quite a ways away, and we heard our camp being tore apart again. But this time it really was. We heard one of our packs from the horses getting tore. So we looked out there and shined the light, and it was a bear. And so we went out and shoot it off. And
yeah.
I write about this in my first book, Voices in the Wilderness. And he circled around. They came back and started getting into it again, because we hadn't unpacked our food at this time. And they were still in our packs because we got in kind of late. And he came back again, started going for it again. So we did the same thing again. And the third time when he did this, we went out with our guns and decided, we got to get rid of him, or he's going to just eat all our food up.
Yeah.
But since then, if I have to shoot at a bear, I'll use a bird shot in my gun and just pop it a little bit and scare it off.
Yeah.
And but anyway, we went out the third time, tried to shoot him off again. He went out about 20, 30 feet, stood up on his hind legs and dropped back down and started coming right towards us.
Oh, God.
And we had to shoot him. And we ate him we skinned him out and ate him the next day, which sounds gross, but
I know, but I mean, it's reality when you're out where you're
it
at,
is,
right?
yeah. And he
Yeah.
was definitely after our food and us if we got in the way. So he looked really big at that time. When we
Wow.
skinned him out the
Yeah.
next day, he looked like a man laying there. So
Oh,
we ate his back straps and barbecued his hindquarters, and that's what we did. And it's kind of spooky when you see a bear skinned out. He does look like a person. So I didn't
I'm
like the
sure with
looks
a
of it.
Bigfoot and stuff too, of course, right? That would be,
I don't think you'll ever get to that point, but
yeah, yeah,
it was
yeah.
like
Do
two or
you
three
notice
of
if
us.
there's like a smell or something? Like, have you
People
noticed
ask me
that at
that
all?
because so many people report a smell, and
Okay,
no, no. At
okay.
that night when we shot the bear, I smelled something.
Yeah, yeah,
It wasn't the gunpowder. It was something else.
yeah,
But I think they can emanate that smell. Which we're 8,400 feet in elevation, way back there, where the bears, if they're berry barrels. They eat berries. They don't eat garbage dump stuff. So a lot of people won't eat bear because they go to garbage dumps and try to pick out the food from there. And
yeah,
sometimes their meat's not very good.
yeah.
But
So you've traveled like literally all over the world, doing research and so on and such like that. Is there like a more specific location you would go back to that you're like, you know what, I want to go back to this location to do more research and such,
I got to
more
say,
so than the others?
if I'm going to go back anywhere, it would probably be to our camp. And last time I was there in 2018 when I took David Paulides, who wrote the 411 Missing 411 books. He went up there to film me at the camp and where the camp was. He's the only one that's ever been in there professionally to film something. He came out with Missing 411 The Hunted. I got about 15 minutes in that DVD. I think it's free if anyone wants to watch it now. And it showed what we experienced 2 years earlier, which was this light anomaly. It was about a 4-foot long tube-looking light floating through the trees. And that's just a form of energy, I think. And we watched it for quite a while. Don't know what to expect with that. All I had was a little 38 with a birdshot in it for the bear. And you don't know what to do with that because it's just, but it's not so strange in that area. It's just like there's kind of something going on there.
Yeah.
But we've had orbs follow us around up there and things like that.
Wow.
And it's just a lot of strange things. We watched it for several seconds till it went out of sight. It wasn't moving fast. It was just floating through the trees. It's a form
That
of
would be
energy.
freaky to see that, right?
Well,
Like,
it was
like
a little
realistically,
concerning.
yeah.
Yeah, it's concerning. It's just,
I'd be like,
at a sound at its 40th octave will change into light. Interesting, huh? So light is energy. Of course, sound is energy. Everything's energy. So if these things can create an octave 40 octaves above the sound of the making, it would be light. It wouldn't be the sound. That's hard to get your head around a little bit, but that's just what science says and have established. So interesting how people see orbs, and then I've had some of them say, well, this turned into a Bigfoot, or a Bigfoot turned into an orb or something. Well, could it be that way? Is that how they do it? I don't know.
you know, it's interesting. I have like cameras in my place just to watch my dog, mainly when I'm out. She has medical conditions. And so one night I was in my bedroom with her, just reading a book. So the only light on was my little night light. And all of a sudden I get notifications on my phone about my camera. And I'm like, what? Like, that's just out in the living room. So I always see orbs around the living room and such like that, in different areas at my place when it's dark. However, one thing that was really interesting for me, it's not, you know, I see it a lot, mind you, but all of a sudden there is this man, this boy appeared in front of me wearing a knapsack, a baseball hat, right on camera there. And actually, it was somebody who I knew who had actually committed suicide. I've known him for many years. You know, he's a younger person and such like that. He just appeared right there on my camera. And I'm like, oh my God. And I kind of stood there frozen in a little bit. But then I'm like, I felt this calm and peacefulness with it. I wished, I thought, why wouldn't I have recorded that? Right. So I love things like that. Phenomenal.
Yeah,
And
it happens, doesn't it? Yeah. That's where I think, ghosts hang out in the fourth dimension, because we go through our three-dimensional environment here, but this body passes away and deteriorates where our spirit goes on. I think they're caught in a time capsule or time something there at the fourth dimension. And if they haven't responded to everything properly, they get another chance to come back and, I think, and get to try it again.
yeah.
So I believe in multiple
reincarnation.
embodiments, which is not the way I was raised at all, because I guess the religion that I was trained in. I say trained because we're all trained to think certain ways, you know. But I encourage people to try to keep that in mind, but go outside of it and start researching how things really happen.
Yeah,
And
be open.
there's so much more going on that we don't see. We see between 430 and 770 terahertz. That's our light's frequency. And all these other frequencies are out there. And if you get into to that stuff, you'll be on your way to understanding how things are different than what you perceive in your three-dimensional environment.
Now you've dealt with a lot of different artifacts, right? Around the world and such. Do you if somebody says, you know what, that artifact there has a curse on it or whatever like that, do you believe that? Like, have you felt anything? Or
well, I might believe that they believe, but I try not to give negative things energy.
Yeah.
I don't want to focus on that at all.
Yes.
And I try not to. So I know people that are into that all the time, and that's what they experience all the time, because that's what they pay attention to, and where your thoughts goes, where your energy goes, and then it calls for you manifesting it in your life. So I just think to stay positive is the best way to out of that all.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's all
absolutely.
good. It's all good that way.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
So
I've even had clients say somebody put a curse on me, and I'm like, oh my gosh, who you were around, right? You know, like
well, don't give it that energy. Don't allow it, because I don't say I disbelieve in that, but I do
yeah.
believe the way energy works and frequencies and things like that. So, because that's science, really, that's quantum science. So I just know that a lot of people give way too much credit to too much negativity, and
Mhm.
well, they always got something going wrong with them.
Out of
And
out of all the locations you've been to, right? You know, this is what I love. You've your journey has been everywhere around the world and such like that. Like I'm a world type of person myself too. So I love hearing stories from people. Do you find that it's kind of an open question really, but do you find that there's certain parts more, let's say like countries that has like more artifacts than the other evidence, artifacts, all of that kind of such? Like what country, if you had to choose, let's say, without like spoiling a location, um, that you would go back to?
well, I've been to South America twice. So I got a
Yeah.
book for South America, Peru,
Wow.
Bolivia.
Yeah.
That's where you see a lot of stuff that just don't make sense to our three-dimensional mind. How they did what they did is just amazing. And those megalithic structures you see, and I've been in the tombs back there where we
Wow.
found skeletons, and I was down there examining with a couple of scientists the elongated skulls that they have in Paracas, Peru. We
Hmm.
weighed them, and they weren't human, the ones we saw. Now the Incas used to cradleboard head bind their youth, royalty youth. But this is a culture that pre-Inca that didn't do that. They just had elongated skulls, a single parietal where we have two, one on each side of our head. They just have a single one, elongated. There's no sagittal suture, so it's just one parietal right here. And they had about 30% more brain matter, where when the
Wow.
Incas cradleboarded their youth, they didn't get more brain matter. They just got a kid with a big headache, probably, and an elongated
Hmm.
skull. That had to hurt, but still, see that stuff, and you go into these tombs and see some of the same stuff,
Yeah.
and you realize that something's happened on this planet. It goes way back before we were. You get into Göbekli Tepe over in Turkey and in that area. So much things, so much. It just opens your mind up to how big this planet is and how long it's actually been here and how many cultures have been on this planet.
Yeah. Yeah, I was
And how
actually going to be
those,
an archaeologist when I was
yeah,
younger. I'm like, I'm going to be an archaeologist and go dig in Egypt and all of these places.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Yeah, you find the same technology,
yeah,
same in Egypt as in South America, and I've been all over Yucatan too, buying stuff,
yeah,
and you got the same type stuff going on all over.
yeah.
And how's that happened? Because there's been a catastrophic incident here thousands of years ago that changed the planet. That's called the Big Deluge, which is talked about in every culture. And I think that they just this thing they're advanced and more advanced than what we are yet.
Yeah.
Now we have those abilities within us. We have not been shortchanged. We have not evolved into them yet. However, we can. You can get into other dimensions. You can get into your fourth dimension, your fifth dimension, your sixth dimension. You can go all the way into the ninth dimension in this embodiment of the third dimension. But you won't stay there unless you can transform yourself, like our masters did.
Yeah.
Uh, you
Like, do
can
you have
do
a
things.
mentor, like a mentor you look that you looked up to, or like somebody who inspired you? Because out of all the researchers, like you're the number one researcher for Bigfoot and Sasquatch, I've heard.
Oh, well, that's a nice thing to say. I certainly don't know everything there is to know, but I've got a lot of background on me, and I try to openly share that with people and hope it helps. But what
Yeah.
it's really brought me to, as far as Bigfoot goes, is brought me to how they do what they do. Can they disappear? Yeah, they know how to change their matter into energy. They
Mhm.
will go out of your visual perception. and that will also stop their trackways, which for years I heard these people, well, we followed this trackway and it just stopped. So a researcher, regular researcher say, well, the helicopter must have picked them up. Something like that. Where no, that's not what happened. Once you change your matter, your density into energy, it won't have any more weight to it, so it doesn't move a track anymore.
Out of your research and stuff, do you have like I'm sure you have tons of stories, but do you have like a story that you really, really experienced something like phenomenally phenomenal, as I call it?
I have to think. I've experienced a lot of phenomenal
Yeah,
things.
exactly. That's what I'm saying, right? Like there's tons of stories.
Some of the
Yeah.
most phenomenal things, I'm a private pilot. I've flown my own airplane all the way to Alaska and into Central and South America. And one time I was flying, I was by myself, and well, I just you can catch I was flying in some bad weather, and I was starting to get sucked up in the clouds, which they could spit you out at 30,000 feet. This plane I had didn't have oxygen, so I kept fighting that, and I was out in the middle of nowhere into Canada somewhere. And that was kind of exciting, but some of my more memorable things are not around these anomalies like Bigfoot and her UFOs. I think there's by the way, UFO component to these things. Because I think that, well, I don't think they're all the same. Number one, Bigfoot,
Yeah.
let me talk about that a second.
Mm-hmm.
They're not all the same, in my opinion. They have different attributes. I don't think the Patterson film from 1967 creature, I think it looks to me like it could be a diluted down. And I think these things, when they were, I think they were made by aliens prior to Homo sapiens. And they have evolved more into whatever they are. They've been given certain attributes to do certain things, but they've also crossbred with indigenous people, which makes some of them different as the eons go by. Natives have, have a lot of that in their lore. So I think that's what's happened. Ours up there had much bigger feet. They were bigger and just bigger. And the feet were bigger. They were splayed toes and just hardly an arch at all. They were 1 foot in front of the other through the snow or wherever they were. And they're very sentient, smart, intuitive. We had no idea they were that way when we first encountered them. They started coming around our camp. But they realized we weren't going to shoot at them. They realized they could toy with us, and they do toy with you. We set up camera traps and they go around a different way. You know, they sometimes just go in and bat the camera off. I think we lost 3 cameras. People want to know why you didn't get a picture. Why didn't you shoot one so we could establish the species? Well, that's ridiculous. If we'd even thought that way, you probably wouldn't have had the encounters, because I think they can read your aura, they can read your energy. I think. And,
sure.
So if I had to do it over again, I would probably do things differently, but I don't go up there so much like I used to. With every chance I got. In fact, the last time I was up there was in 2018 with David Paulides, and people want to know if I'm going to go back. Well, while we was up there, California, I think there were 17 forest fires going on at the time. One of them was close to us, and we didn't know if we was going to get out or not. We was up there a full week, and we had to wait for a mule team to come up there and pack up everything and get us out of there. We had them take us in, and that's just anyway. I flew over it later on after the fires and seen what damage they did. The fire did, and I seen where some of the trees were still there. In fact, green trees around a few acres around where our shelter was. And the camp is still there. Obviously, ground don't change, but the trees, some of them have been scorched and all over the area. So I'm sure I can no trouble find my way in. I could do that almost backwards. I've been up there so many times, but it's really imposing to do that on foot. If I go in again at my age, I'm in my 80s now, so I really got to. I mean,
you don't look 80s.
Oh, thank you.
I seriously would not have ever thought that, honestly.
Well, I may not look 80, trust me. I'm over 80. So, but anyway, I just about 7 years ago, I had a surgery on my brain. I had a tumor taken out of mine. It wasn't malignant at all. So, but it's messed up my balance. So I don't walk anymore. I mean, I walk, but
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't care to walk up there because my balance and there's some
Yeah.
really rocky
Yeah.
areas that you just don't want to fall off. And I had too many broken ribs and sprung wrists and everything like that going up there with horses.
Okay.
So over the years, it's a treasure's trail, really. So anybody going up there, they ride a horse, they better have a good trail horse, not just a trail horse, but a good trail horse, one that's
Yeah.
experienced in rocks and stuff like that. We never shoot our horses, and if you horseshoes, they can slip easier on the rocks, the steep boulders that they have to walk over. Whereas, anyway, that's good off the subject, but.
So you've written a lot of books,
I've
right?
written just two. I'm on my third one, just about ready to release it, which
Yeah,
is
like I keep on hearing books, like books and books and books, right? So there's going to be more coming. Um, out of the books that you have written, like of course they have their own energy and experience and stories and such like that. Is there one that you're drawn to more?
uh, well, the one I'm writing right now, I guess, what I'm drawn to right now. The first one I wrote was my Voices in the Wilderness.
Yeah.
It was my chronicle, and it comes with a download of the sounds. When I get to talking about the sound I heard, you can hear the sound if you download it. And then the second one is Quantum Physics, totally different book. The first one's easy to write. Quantum Physics took me a long time to write because I had to research things quite carefully, and I had to combine that with my spiritual upbringing. And like I say, Tesla said, what one man calls God, no one calls quantum physics. Because the spirituality and quantum physics are synonymous to me. And so I've written that one. I've written just about, if I can meet with my editor after we get talking today, I'm editing this book I've written now. Second editor.
Wow.
And so I'll be releasing that probably after the first year and I can get it all cleaned up. My website, people can download these things. I've also produced two CDs with just the sounds and the narrative about the sounds on it. One, the first one is the aggressive sounds that was narrated by Jonathan Frakes, Star Trek Next Generation. And the second one, I narrate myself. It's got sounds embedded in it also. It's my story. And they're both about 40 minutes long. Those are also downloadable.
I mean, I can imagine listening to that under a full moon. Like you got your earphones plugged in.
Well,
You're outside somewhere in the dark, let's say, or in the woodsy area, and then you're hearing these sounds in the moon. Like for those of you,
some people want to take these and blast them out in the forest. I don't recommend that. But they think they're going to get something. Well, they had one guy do that, and one of these things charged him.
Oh my gosh!
He saw it. And when you talk about walking on water, that guy did it then. And I had a lot of people say stuff like that because a lot of people say they hear the sounds that I've recorded, but none of them's really been studied like I have. And the people don't walk around with tape recorders. And they say they hear them, but they obviously don't record them. But these things will toy with people because they think that we think we're smarter than them.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't like, I mean, I won't even go like this. Like, I mean, seriously, I'm an animal communicator. I won't even go into the mountains and such like that, hiking or anything. I'll stand there and take a photo, nice photo, but I won't go in there. I mean, I have nothing against it for other people, never, of course. But for me, no, because I sense a lot of energies around there. And I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm in the pathway here. I'll be by my car.
Well, what I tell people basically is if they're afraid, I said the fear is your only enemy in life, really.
Yeah.
In my opinion, fear.
Yeah.
We got to conquer our fear.
Yes.
And if you can conquer your fear, you're
Yeah.
pretty much not going to be bothered by anything. Because if you realize also who you were made in the image of and how important that is, how we were made to be, how we've been given dominion, not dominance, but dominion on this planet. So you can call it off, you can call it out, and know who you are as a human, what you're here for, and that's basically to experience the experience you're experiencing and responding to it properly. When I say properly, here's a key word for this whole program. Respond to it with love and compassion, and not with anger, not with hate, with, I want to get back at that guy. Don't flip him off.
Yeah.
Don't get mad. Don't get mad at that little lady won't move when the light turns green. Just be patient and be compassionate.
Yeah.
And when you follow those rules, your whole health, everything's going to be better for you.
Yeah.
That's
I
how
know
I see it.
sometimes that inner voice comes out though when you least expect it.
Yeah, it
You
can.
know,
We're
you're
so
like,
human. Yeah. I think
right?
we receive through our pineal gland. That's our receptor. It
Yeah.
has to be connected to the heart, which has its own brain. And then that has to be in coherence with the outside mind. A lot
Yeah.
of times our analytical conditioned mind will tell us to go that way when our heart says go that way.
Yeah.
I think you need to follow your heart every time, and
Yeah.
you'll be the right place.
Absolutely. Now you were also in Nepal. Like Nepal for me, it's, you know, I hold my heart with Nepal, the Himalayas and all of that for many reasons. Now you were there to help us assess the tiger population. Like what were you doing? Like what was that about?
I went over there with my friend Peter Byrne, who I've known since the mid-70s when he heard about our sounds and came down and talked to us. And he's one of the great white hunters that was first allowed in Nepal to set up a preserve there for hunting. He led 72 safaris, and he was engaged by the government there to assess the tigers, see how many there were, because there's a big thing going on with tigers. People try to kill them and take them over to China and sell them for a lot of money. So there's a military presence there now. He turned his acreage, 3,000 acres, I think it was, over to the government there, and they put a military presence there to keep people from poaching and tigers. So he was engaged by the government to assess the tiger population, and he invited me to go over there with him several times. So I realized he wasn't going to be here forever, so I went over there with him, and it was quite enlightening. He showed me a lot of things, but he tried to see, if there's leopard prints, that means there's no tiger around. Different things. They're really respected over there in Nepal a lot. He just passed away a couple of weeks ago, by the way,
Oh,
in his 90s. Yeah,
wow.
quite a gentleman. Written several books and real colorful history. He was the great white hunter, the original.
Wow. That, I mean, it's amazing. It's just, I go way, it's past life anyways with Nepal and such like that. Um, do you, do you think or believe that? Because I mean, people go missing, of course, at any time for many reasons, right? Do you think anybody has gone missing because of like a Sasquatch or a Bigfoot?
There's a lot of stories about that.
Yeah.
Like David Pilates talks about the missing people, and mainly in parks and
Parks? Like,
national parks.
okay, yeah.
Yeah. And I was just down at the lake, land between the lakes here recently on an expedition there with some guys that there's the dogman they have down there, which if you believe in Bigfoot, you may as well believe in dogman, because aliens are messing around with the genome of different species on this planet all the time. And
Yeah.
it's a big hybridization program going on as we speak. A lot of things are changing for us now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's hard to say. I've never saw that happen. I've heard about it. The dogman especially is aggressive to people. And what the parks will do is just block off that area where they get attacked or something by something. But
Yeah.
there's been Bigfoot and dogman sighted in that area, LBL, called Land Between the Lakes.
Hmm.
It just, I went in there for a few days with these guys. But anyway, it's a kind of a secret thing.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's why I'm like, okay.
But
No, that Lovelock cave in Nevada, right? I mean, even I think like Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagon and those guys have been in there and such like that. You've been into Lovelock caves and such in
four
Nevada.
times,
Yeah.
four
How do you
times.
feel in there? Like, do you go during the day or do you like go
I've
during the
all
evening time?
no, well, three of us went in there. I've been there four times, like I say. One of
Yeah.
the times I went in with these other two guys, and they went back at night. I said, I'm not going to go back there at night, and
I wouldn't.
not because I'm afraid of something. It's just because you're not. It's protected. I mean, it's open to the public, and it's interesting because well, we saw a big handprint in it. We thought it looks like a hand anyway, a huge hand. It's a huge cave, but a lot of it's been blocked off now to the public, so you can't get down these areas. But those guys got down there and started digging through one of those areas, and started finding all kinds of little stuff that belonged to the Paiutes, probably because they took over the cave once they killed all these hairy giants that came out. Sarah Winnemucca writes about that in her book, Life Among the Pirates. But supposedly they're cannibalistic, red-haired giants.
Yes.
And all the artifacts have been taken away, supposedly to the Smithsonian's, what I've heard. I've tried to get access to that stuff a couple of times, and they won't give it up. And anyway, no telling us what all they have. But I've been there 4 times, and it's been interesting each time. The last time I went was to show somebody the handprint, and it had been wiped off already. Now that would have taken something to get that off, because it was the goop that was up on the roof of that thing. It was very high, by the way. That same goop was on this big boulder down there, and I took pictures of all that. Somehow somebody got it off, and I can't believe anybody got a permit to do that in that length of time. So that's the bigger question: is who did that and why?
Cover-ups. Yeah,
it's all cover-up. I mean,
cover-ups.
the government only gives us what they think we can handle. They trickle it out to us bits at a time, like the UFO thing, but they're going to have to trickle out the Bigfoot pretty soon. Too many people are seeing these things, and too many people are they're very credible. These people are very, very credible. I mean, they're police officers, forestry workers, stuff like that. A lot of times they are threatened with their job if they come forward. A lot of them are coming forward now if they retire or just say heck with it.
And there's more truth being exposed, even more and more and more and more, and it's going to continue to come out, right? So,
I have a philosophy that truth will always prevail.
Yes.
Always.
The truth always comes out one way or another.
Right.
It's like karma. It comes around, goes around, and nobody can run from karma and such like that.
That's the reason for the multiple embodiments.
Yes, absolutely. So can you share with those who are not familiar with what are the red-haired giants? Just because people are going to be like, what is the red-haired giants?
Well, that's a good question. I like to say I know. I got some of my suspicions of what they are, but the Nephilim, from the biblical standpoint, I don't know if you know about that or not, what they are, but they were beings that were created by the Anunnaki, which were the fallen angels from the powerful ones, giants. And they had abilities that actually kicked us into motion long, long time ago, according to the cuneiform text of the upper Mesopotamia. It's just about all religions have their core coming out of that written text. It's the first written text known to mankind. And so what are the red-haired giants? It could be an offshoot from that, just because they were eating people. They're cannibalistic there. And I know the Native Americans have a lot of stories about how they don't want their kids going in the forest because, and also that they have stories too about their women being taken. So who knows what that race may have been, but they were, according to Sarah Winnemucca, they were hairy, red-haired, 8-foot giants. Yeah. Cannibalistic. Like she's got a dress supposedly made from the hair one. At least part of it is. I don't know where that dress is, but she's not buried around there anywhere. She's up somewhere else. But it'd be interesting to get that garment. And it'd be interesting to see one of these things is skeleton or skull, if it's got 2 parietals or one, or just where all that leads to, because you don't get to see that stuff anymore. Once the government has to control the narrative. And if it doesn't fit with what religions and narratives go with what they want people to have, they hide it or make fun of it to get rid of the story. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Now, we've had black helicopters fly over us once in a while. Gets my wife a little bit freaky, but doesn't bother me. They can't hurt me, So it's like Devil's Tower and Close Encounters. There's helicopters are surrounding it, right? Well, they fly pretty close sometimes, but it doesn't bother me. They have not arrested me or shot me or anything like that yet. Not that I
Well,
expected.
done no harm, right? Like,
No,
so.
who am I? I'm small peanuts around here, in the big. I do believe in UFOs. I believe aliens are here now. They've been here for eons. They may be who we are in the future. I don't know. A lot of them house themselves under the water. Some are probably cloaked out in space. But people wonder, who are we so special that they would come to this planet? Well, this planet is the jewel of the solar system. It's got everything that the other planets don't have.
Yeah.
It's got everything. So they all monitor this, I think, this planet to see the
Oh,
outcome
for sure.
of us humans.
For sure. Yeah.
We're
Me and a friend
special.
of mine, long story short, many, many moons ago, as I call it, we call each other alien to alien for many reasons, and even whenever I send her like a Christmas card or birthday card on, it's like going to who, right? I'll put alien to alien, that's just her address. And
That's
then
funny.
it's from who, I'll put alien to alien.
That's funny. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, we're all in for some interesting times ahead of us.
Yes. Absolutely.
It's a new world now, and it's coming. Things are changing fast,
Yeah.
and I think AI is what we got to watch for. That's my opinion.
The what? We have to
Artificial intelligence.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It'll overtake us, and nothing we can do about it. I don't think, and that's all prophesied too. I think it's
Yeah.
not just in biblical references, but it's in all kinds of mythologies and Native American lore. It's in so much.
Because I mean,
But
you've done so many like researches on so many things.
okay. Yes, I have.
Right? Like,
It's all what I've been drawn to. I've been fortunate enough to be able to get involved in all that. I've had a very fortunate life.
yeah.
I'm very grateful for it.
What
And
do
I
you want
just
to be
want
remembered for? Like, what do you want to be remembered for when
to have dropped a
eventually?
seed somewhere so people can water it.
Yeah.
I don't know who's listening all right now, but if I can just touch a few people or just one, it's all worth my time and my whole. Because this
Yes.
is all I do is this right here and speak at conferences and things like that. So
Right.
what I want to remember by, if I don't care if I get remembered or not, but what I say, I hope gets remembered, and what I think I've came across in my 50 plus years of experiencing and following
Well, I
this
mean, you've
thing.
been on like documentaries and Travel Channel, Discovery Channel, and such like that too. So I mean, those go on. Those go on, you know,
Yeah.
long after,
Hmm.
and it's very educational. I mean, I love it. I personally, I love it myself.
I like being on these things because I get to express what I think, and
Yeah.
and if it follows with people, fine. Everybody has choices in life, and they can choose to believe
Yeah.
this kind of stuff, or they can choose to stay in their box.
Have you had dreams, like dreams of Bigfoots or Sasquatches? Because our dreams can show us a lot, of course, right?
Yeah,
Have you ever had that, like you're dreaming or something, and then all of a sudden there's like a Sasquatch or Bigfoot standing in front of you?
I have.
Yeah,
Yeah. I had other things besides that come in front of me.
yeah,
And I woke up some nights and I see somebody walking by at the foot of the bed, and I thought, what's my wife doing up right now? It wasn't
yeah.
her. And then one time I got woke up. Usually they grab my feet. That's what happens. They
Wow.
grab a hold of my feet and start shaking them, and I'll look up and see a face of somebody there. And sometimes I don't know who it is, but one night it was so real. I reached up to touch it and it wasn't there, but my hand could go right through it. Wow, that was different. So I got to thinking, well, what are they doing? Maybe I don't know, maybe trying to help me with something. So I started just saying thank you instead of getting scared. Not
Yeah.
that I don't get scared too easy, but
No, you've
it's a little
swam with
freaky.
sharks, for goodness sakes. Like you've swam with sharks and
Yeah, I rode manta rays too. And yeah, I guess I have has a lot of experiences. None
yeah.
of those things have to do much with Bigfoot, other than I've been to Patagonia as a safety diver for the right whales, and
Yes.
been in Nepal up in I rode an elephant for a week over there,
Oh,
and
wow.
found a 19-foot restrictor, and just yeah, memories. That's all you got when you get older is your memories.
Yeah, but I mean, like, you're this extraordinary, adventurous, unique person, and that's why I was really drawn to you and your work,
Well,
right?
thank you.
You
Thank you.
know,
That's
you're very
nice of you to say.
interesting. Like, I could talk to you for hours, my goodness sakes.
I can talk for hours too. I was on that coast to coast one time for 4 hours.
Oh, wow.
Of
Wow.
course, half of that was commercials, I think.
Yeah. Give you that
But
kind of time to have a moment, right?
that was quite a while back. I've been on it again since then, but I won't stay up that late anymore. They do it live.
Wow. Because I mean, you're also a musician, a musician.
Yeah, I've been involved in music. I've flown my plane into the wilderness of Alaska, into the little villages back there, and did perform for them and talk to them. And didn't ever require money or nothing like that because they would usually take one offering, feed me well, and roll out the red carpet if they had one. And
Wow.
they always took care of it. I don't worry about being taken care of anymore. I've had a lot of money in the past, and I've spent a lot of money in the past, and it's okay. I'm doing okay now. I'm not making money, but I'm not trying to make money. I don't
Yeah.
care.
Yeah.
Money is not everything.
Yeah.
It's the second to happiness.
That peace of mind. So what do
Yeah.
you do to stay grounded? Right?
This.
This. Oh, okay.
What do I do to stay grounded? You
Yeah.
mean as far as I don't work, I just write and respond to people every day, and I go out and still get around a little bit, and just not as much as I used to,
Yeah.
and it's interesting. I stay just about as busy as I want to stay, doing this stuff. My wife's always remodeling a house, no matter what house we get. She's a lot younger than me. She's got all that energy, so go for it, girl. She's really,
Absolutely.
really good at it, though. Yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Well,
but
that, that's extraordinary. I mean, we've only just really covered the surface, like only just the surface, really. And I mean, you've got so many stories I'd like to share more, of course, even at like another time on a live show as well, perhaps.
sure.
And
Yeah.
people can ask you, of course, it won't be 4 hours long, like coast to coast. No. But who knows, right? It won't be
Uh,
late at night, right? So,
yeah.
so if somebody wanted to get to know you more, or like buy your books, or read more about you, what is the best way for them to reach out to you and get a hold of you?
My website, which is ronmorehead.com. Simple. 1-O-M-O-R-E-H-E-A-D. And .com. That's where you can either buy the hard copy of the books or you can download those or download my CDs.
Yeah.
You can print them out and play them in your car or whatever.
Yeah. And I
Some
mean,
some stores, I still got some of those around in stores,
mhm.
but I stopped mailing those out myself a while back because it's just too busy.
Yeah.
I've been real busy this summer. I've spoken
Yeah. Because
so
you're
many
on a lot of
conferences.
documentaries and shows and stuff.
Well,
And
actually, they're doing a documentary right now of the Sierra Camp with me,
mhm.
and just been they're I think going to do a really good job trying to raise funds for it, though. you know, Production companies often run low on funds when they're trying to do a big one, and they've already done a few productions, but this is going to be their biggest. I think should be really good.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to call it yet, but it basically they interviewed the other two guys that are still remaining, my friend Bill McDowell and Lewis Johnson, and Lewis is in his 90s, but he's still very alert.
Active.
And
Yeah.
they interviewed him just a few weeks ago in California. I was there, and they interviewed all three of us at once there too. So they got those guys on film, which is a first for them ever.
Mhm.
And I've been after Bill for so long because he experienced what I experienced up there, and so did Lewis. And they just haven't been wanting to talk about it. They're very backward about it. They're all very religious still, which is okay. But they just think there's something you shouldn't mess with. A lot of people think that.
Yeah.
Native Americans think that. They just leave them alone. They just are big brothers and they live out there. But what they represent is what I've had to get into. It just won't leave me alone.
Yeah. No, I understand that. I mean, like there's, people that, say they've taken photos of things and when very well might not be. So there's certain skeptical people out there and such like that as well. And but the evidence that you've produced, and that's been going on for quite some time, people have to really open their minds. And I do believe, especially these past, because this year there's been more changes this year than there has been in over 10,000 years.
I think that's what the Mayan calendar 2012 was all about, bring us into an age of enlightenment.
Yeah.
A lot of people being enlightened now, and I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Because when I was a boy, just a little kid, it was 1960 was going to end of time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The next year was 1984. That's the end of time, right?
Yeah.
First thing, then next thing you know, the world's going to end in 2000. Then it happened 2012. No, that's when it happened. Now it's 2027. So, it goes on and on. One way or the other, things are going to happen.
Oh, well, what can we do about it? Right? It's like,
absolutely
what are you going to do about it? Fight with the planets?
Just get yourself right, get your spirit right, get yourself fixed at who you really are and what the image you're made in. A very high frequential being.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, it's been like such a pleasure and an honor to chat with you today, Ron. Like, oh my goodness sakes, right? Like, oh my goodness sakes. It's been awesome. It's been really, really awesome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Oh, of course. Of course. It's just so I love really unique things and diving in and like I always tell people, whatever you're passionate about, go for it. Because when you follow your passion, what you're truly passionate about, you're going to find your soul's destiny and soul's purpose. And so it doesn't matter who you are, what you're doing, that's for you. We're all unique and gifted and talented in our own way.
That is so good. That's such good advice.
Yeah.
If you don't have the coherence between your heart and your gut feeling and your mind, get those in rhythm with each other. You do it through meditation, but it's all received, I believe, through the third eye, the pineal gland, which is in coherence with the heart. Heart has to teach the outside mind not to be so restricted. Just go by what the heart tells you to do.
Yes, absolutely.
Your outside mind is going to say, well, this way, you've been conditioned like this. That's where all the money is over there. Go that way. But then your heart's going to say, no, go over here and help this old lady across the street. Well, your heart says, go help that little old lady. That's what you ought to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It raises your own personal frequency.
Yeah. Show compassion.
Yeah, absolutely. Get you out of this third dimensional environment and the right respect when you get out of it.
Yeah. Show compassion and especially kindness, because it doesn't matter who we are on the planet. We're all going through something. We're all experiencing something, and we all have our own journey to walk upon, the good, the bad, and the ugly, and such like that. And I always say the number one rule of the universe is do not judge.
Exactly. That's so important. Everybody's got their karma to go through. They got their own decisions to make. Let them make it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Oh my goodness, Rod, I can't believe we're like coming to the end here already. And for those of you who seriously want to see Ron come back live, make some comments, for goodness sakes, because you never know. I'll be connecting with Ron again. I love his work. I'm a huge fan, and it'd be honored to do another interview with you at another time and such like that. And
figure it out.
Yeah, you've got it. You've got to look at his work. You've got to check out his books and so on and so on and so on. Go for it. You'll really, really be shocked and surprised with the evidence and photos and pictures and plus so much more about Ron. Right?
Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. So thank you everyone for tuning into my show. Make sure you subscribe to my podcast and YouTube channel in order to get notifications on new videos and content that's coming out. And remember, if you have a story or something extraordinary you'd like to share or chat about with me, send me a message, and you never know, I might reach out to you and come knocking at your door to do an interview with you. So, want to wish you all a very bountiful day. And thank you again to my extraordinary guest, Ron Morehead.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Take care. Okay, bye.